Welcome to EPG Pathshala. We are discussing today the course on social policy. The specific module under discussion is the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme and the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, MGNREGS and MGNREGA. The Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act is a rights-based public works program that guarantees 100 days of rural wage employment on demand by community members. If you remember our module on public works, and we ended the module on public works by referring to the MGNREGS as a new generation of public works program which is based on rights legislation. As one of the largest social protection programs in the world, the MGNREGS has great potential to stem rural distress and works best in areas where higher levels of community involvement are found and where effective social accountability and social audit mechanisms are in place. This rights-based legislation is an outcome of a campaign to make right to work a fundamental right for all citizens through a national level Employment Guarantee Act. So the MGNREGS is supported by the MGNREGA Act, which makes it a justiciable public works program. The objectives of this module. The objective of the module is to enable students to understand the unique features of MGNREGS as a rights-based public works program, to understand specific rights and entitlements under MGNREGS, to understand the permissible works under the scheme, to also look at the roles and responsibilities of the implementing authorities. What are the unique features of the MGNREGS? The uniqueness of MGNREGS is in both its objectives and its provisions. Unlike the earlier wage employment programs that were allocation-based, MGNREGS is demand-driven, which essentially means that the quantum of the work and the nature of work is dependent on the demands that are made by the wage seekers, and it is not dependent on the will of the implementing agency to provide work. What this means is if a group of people demand work within the provisions that is available under the MGNREGA scheme, the government is compelled to provide them with this work. And although the nature of the provision is temporary type of employment, as in all public works program, it is this component of being demand driven which makes it a unique type of social protection scheme. Let's look briefly at the background of the emergence of the MGNREGS. On February 2, 2006, the MGNREGA came into force and was launched in 200 select districts in the first phase. In the second phase, between 2007 and 2008, it was extended to an additional 130 districts, and in the third phase to 274 districts. From 2008, all rural areas in the country were covered under the MGNREGA, which essentially means it is not only a public works scheme, it is a comprehensive public works scheme which covers the entire population of the country. This also makes it one of the largest public programs in the world from among 94 countries which administer similar types of public work program. 58 million people have benefited from MGNREGA in India in recent years. When we look at the current spendings, during the financial year 2015 to 2016, 235 crore person days of work was created, which was the highest compared to the previous 5 years. In the financial year 2016-17, 4.8 crore households were provided employment in different types of permissible works under MGNREGA. The total expenditure in the program since its inception has been almost 3 million rupees. Currently, rupees 48,000 crore is the allocation fund for the financial year 2017-18, and this is the highest ever allocation for MGNREGA. The expenditure for the financial year 2016-17 so far is 51,902 crore. The financial spending on MGNREGA gives us some indication on the amount of policy commitment, the policy priority that is being put into public works program as a social safety net or a social protection mechanism for the poorer population in the country. Mgnregs has supposed to have worked very well for women. This act has gender-related provisions such as equal wages for women and men for equal work. Priority of women is also there in the allocation of work, so that 33% of all laborers should be women in any public works program under Mgnregs. Creche facilities at work sites have been provided to enable young mothers to work and emphasize on no gender discrimination on any kind. 45% of the women working under Mgnregs in 2011-12 were either not working or were working on a family farm in 2004-5, which essentially means that this public works program has provided them with a supplemental and additional opportunity to earn cash incomes. There are many challenges in implementing a large-scale program such as this. Among them, it has been documented that there are usually considerable delays in payment of wages, the improper planning at the Gram Panchayat level. If you remember our module on devolution and decentralization, among the activities that the Gram Panchayat has to do is also planning for social schemes such as the Mgnregs. Poor maintenance of records, fund constraints, quality, durability, and usefulness of assets that are created under Mgnregs have been other causes of concern. Inadequate capacities of implementing functionaries and need for increased awareness about the program, which would lead to greater people's participation, have all been concerns about the smooth implementation of the Mgnregs. What has been the objective of the Mgnregs program? The objective has been to provide at least 100 days of unskilled manual work as guaranteed employment in a financial year to every household on demand. The other related objectives have been strengthening the livelihood base of the rural poor, ensuring social inclusion, and strengthening the Panchayati Raj institutions. The salient features are employment guaranteed on a rights-based framework. It's a time-bound guarantee. Wage and material ratio at the Gram Panchayat block level has to be at the rate of 60:40. The planning process has to be decentralized. At least 50% of the work has to be implemented by the Gram Panchayat themselves. Transparency and accountability features are mandated and inbuilt into the implementation framework of the program. The wage payment has to happen through post offices or bank accounts. Men and women have to be paid equal wages, and contractors are not allowed to run these programs. As part of the planning for the Mgnregs, three important components must be remembered. Districts have to prepare something called a district perspective plan for at least 5 years. Gram Panchayats need to prepare a development plan, also called the GPDP, and a labor budget has to be prepared at the level of the Panchayat. The labor budget essentially consists of a calculation, an estimated calculation of how much would it cost to implement a particular works program, and it has three components in it: the cost of the wages that need to be paid to the people who are employed in these public works program, the cost of the material that would be required to build particular types of rural assets, and the administrative cost that is in this. So there is a formula that has been given in terms of what proportion of the cost can be spent on each of these components. Essentially, the wage budget equals the total number of households with job cuts multiplied by 100 days into minimum wages. The material cost has to be a certain proportion of the budget only, that is only 40%, whereas the wage cost has to be 60% of the budget. The administration cost would be about 6% of the wage plus material cost, and all of it put together creates the labor budget which the panchayats have to make. Now, what are the steps involved in the preparation of the plan? All of these plan preparation is a time-bound program, which essentially means this is one of the few social programs which are closely linked to the times of the year in which it has to take place. So on 15th of August, the Gram Sabha has to approve a Gram Panchayat annual plan and submit it to their Panchayat office. On 15th of September, the Panchayat office has to submit the consolidated Gram Panchayat plans to the Block Panchayat. On the 2nd of October, Block Panchayats have to approve the block annual plan and submit it to the district panchayat committee. On 15th of November, the DPC has to present the district annual plan to the district panchayat. On 1st of December, the district panchayat has to approve the district annual plan. 15th of December, the DPC has to ensure that the shelf of projects, and we will explain what shelf of projects mean in Mgnregs, for each GP is ready. After the approval of the labor budget and list of works for each respective Gram Panchayat should be entered into the management information system before 15th of December of each year. On 31st of December, the labor budget is submitted to the central government. This essentially, what this demonstrates is an actual implementation of a decentralized planning of a development program that is taking place right from the grassroots level and reaching up to the center. In January, the ministry scrutinizes the labor budget and requests for compliance for deficiencies, if any. By February, empowered committees are set up and the labor budget is finalized. By February, March, labor budget is communicated to the states, and the states have to feed the data month-wise and district-wise in the management information system and communicate the same to the district blocks and Gram Panchayats. Before 7th of April, states have to communicate to the blocks, and the center has to release the first grant for the implementation of the Public Works program. Now, what are the kinds of works that are permitted under the Public Works program? It is divided into 4 categories: A, B, C, and D. Category A means water conservation and water harvesting structures such as earthen dams, step dams with special focus on recharging groundwater near drinking water sources. Remember, the idea is, as an older Public Works program, to create rural assets and also to regenerate livelihood resources for the rural population. Natural resource management, irrigation structures, the renovation and repair of traditional water structures, afforestation, tree plantation, horticulture, and land development work in common land. Category A means these are the high priority works under the Mgnregs. So the people who are obtaining employment under this program have to work only in these specified categories of work. Category B is refurbishing individual assets for vulnerable section of the population, and this again includes improving productivity of land by providing suitable infrastructure for irrigation, dug well, farm ponds, horticulture, sericulture, plantation and land development of fallow or wasteland, and providing good quality housing for rural households. So essentially what you can see is that Public Works program is also trying to address other social policy concerns by weaving in the building of rural assets, not just collectively owned, but also what is individually owned by weaker sections of the population. Category C are promoting livelihood activities such as creating infrastructure, poultry shelters, goat shelters, cattle shelters, creating infrastructure for promotion of fisheries, and also promoting agricultural productivity by creating durable infrastructure for biofertilizer, post-harvest facilities, storage places for agricultural produce, and so on. Category D constitutes rural infrastructure such as rural sanitation work, household toilets, school toilets, Anganwadi toilets, solid and liquid waste disposal, road connectivity, providing all-weather rural roads connectivity to unconnected villages, construction of playgrounds in schools or communities. The idea, category D rural infrastructure also includes building of Gram Sabha, self-help group, cyclone shelters, Anganwadi shelters, food grain storage structures, disaster preparedness or restoration, and any other type of work which the central government might notify. The idea of having 4 categories of work and providing great details of what these works should be is to ensure that the assets that are created under the Mgnregs is not is not diverted to only the most privileged sections of the rural community and is used in collective interest by the widest section of the population, but especially the disadvantaged section. Now, what is the funding pattern of the program? The funding pattern is central government bears the entire cost of wages of unskilled manual workers, 75% of the cost of the material, and up to 6% of expenditure as administration expenses. States bear 25% of the cost of material, which includes wages, unemployment allowance, expenses of SCGC, and penalty on delayed. Right to demand and receive work within 15 days. What makes this particular public works program a legal entitlement is the ability to demand and receive work. Individuals can apply orally or in writing at the Gram Panchayat level. They can fill in a demand application form. They can demand work for up to 14 days at one time. They can also demand work of 100 days at one time. Demand can be made individually or in group. Basically, no matter what your requirement, a short-term employment or a long-term employment, for up to 100 days of work can be demanded by applying orally or in the written form at the Gram Panchayat level. Right to unemployment allowance. If employment is not provided, even after people have demanded for it, within 15 days of the application being made, the applicant is entitled to an unemployment allowance. At least 1/4 of the minimum wages for the first 30 days would constitute the amount of this unemployment allowance. And after the first 30 days have elapsed and people have still not got work, then half of the minimum wage would have to be given to people even if they have not done a day's generated even a single person day of employment. The right to plan and prepare shelf of projects. Before the commencement of the financial year and as per the notification of the state, a shelf of work should be ready for immediate starting of work when demanded, which essentially means every Gram Panchayat should have a list of works under the permissible work list from categories A to D ready and in place in order to be able to quickly spring into action when demand for job arises from the local community. People also have the right to obtain work within a short distance, a radius of 5 kilometers, within 5 kilometers of the applicant's residence as far as possible. If the work is provided beyond 5 kilometers, which essentially means people have to travel and incur transportation cost, then this allowance has to be made by adding 10% more to their wages. Right to worksite facility, essentially sheds for resting and drinking water supply has to be provided at the worksite. Medical and first aid kit has to be provided, and if there are younger children, more than 5 children below the age of 6, then creche facility also has to be provided at the work site. The right to notified wage rates and right to receive wage within 15 days. Weekly or in case not later than a fortnight, directly to the person through banks or post offices concerned in the knowledge of the wage seeker, and this essentially means that people have to receive the amount of money earned from doing the public works within 15 days of the completion of work. The central government also has to notify the wage rate every year so that there is no discrepancy in the wage rate that has been fixed by the government and what is being actually given to people at the work site. There is also a provision for compensating for delay in payment of wages. According to Section 3(3) of the Mgnregs Act, workers are entitled to being paid in 7 days and in any case within 15 days of closure of muster roll. Compensation at the rate of 0.05% of the unpaid wages per day has to be provided to workers in case the work that they are doing has not compensated within a stipulated time. The idea for the inclusion of such a clause is essentially the people who demand 100 days of unskilled manual work in rural contexts are people who are considered to be in absolute dire need, and after completing work, if they do not get paid on time, then the entire purpose of the social protective mechanism of this public works program would fail to act, since people are not being able to obtain wages for the work that they have done. Therefore, these clauses have been introduced to incentivize governments to speed up and not delay the payment of wages, which would actually lead to increasing expenditures in public works program. More the wages are delayed, the greater would be the cost of the program in any financial year. There is also a provision for grievance redressal within this public works program. Within 7 days of complaining, the process is you have to write a complaint at the Gram Panchayat level. If the Gram Panchayat functionaries are unable to resolve your problem, the individuals can go to the block level, who has to redress it in 7 days, and if the problem is not redressed at the block level, they have to go to the district level where they have to redress it in 15 days, and if not resolved, there is an ombudsman to whom a complaint can be filed. These complaints can be filed individually as well as collectively. The right to conduct concurrent social audit and social audit. Mgnregs is the only government scheme, only social program where the right to conduct social audit is inbuilt in the law, and workers have a right to register their grievances at the panchayat, block and district level, and they also have to receive an acknowledgement of the same. The authorities have to redress the grievances within 15 days. Section 17A gives right to citizens to conduct social audit of all works and expenditure incurred under Mgnregs, which essentially means members of the public, including local community members and the workers themselves, can form a group and collect evidence and get it verified with the operational norms to ensure that everything that is there laid out on paper, whether that is actually being fulfilled or not, and if it is not being fulfilled, then they can actually submit social audit reports which are actionable. Let us look at the different roles and responsibilities that functionaries have from the panchayat to the state level. At the Gram Panchayat level, the role of the mate is very important. The job of the mate is to supervise work sites, capture daily attendance in muster rolls, give daily marks out to groups, take measurement at the end of the day, maintain a measurement book, update entries in the job cards, facilitate application of job cards and submit it to the GP, ensure that first aid box is available at work site, help illiterate laborers and groups to learn to sign or to calculate wages earned, create awareness about rights under Mgnregs, distribute pay slips, facilitate demand from works from individuals or groups, facilitate participatory identification of works in the GP, and submit filled muster rolls to the GRS. The GRS is the Gram Rozgar Sevak, and who is another important component, another important person in this implementation of the public works program. And the job of the GRS is to assist in execution of Mgnregs work, oversee the process of registration, distribution of job cards, provide the recipient's job application, facilitate the Gram Sabha meeting, facilitate social audit meeting, record attendance of labor every day, ensure marks out are given at work site, ensure that all mates attend work sites on time, update job cards, ensure that documents are conveniently available for public scrutiny, maintaining all Mgnregs related registers, support in the organization of Rozgar Divas, facilitate the planning process at GP level and distribute pay slips. Technical assistance at the block level help to identify public works as per the Gram Panchayat resolution. They also prepare technical estimate, they capture measurement and record detail, they maintain measurement books, they build the technical capacities of the mate and the Gram Rozgar Sahayak, they validate the measurements that are taken by mates so that there is no dispute in future between the amount of work that people have done and the amount of work that has been calculated, which would lead to a discrepancy in the amount of wages that are paid. Responsibility for the work quality is also for the technical assistants to oversee and also to make relevant records available to the state. Panchayat development officers supervise all the other functionaries, they implement and monitor Mgnregs, they assist the panchayat in doing the decentralized planning and preparing development plans, and any other duties that are assigned at the panchayat level by block, district and state government. Junior engineers are important for creating the work estimate, which would ensure that the rural asset that is getting created is of a particular good quality and durability. They also issue technical sanctions, provide technical supervision. They validate the measurements of the work that is undertaken at the first phase by the mates. They give layout of works for construction and civil works. They monitor execution of work, and they also check the measurements recorded in the measurement book. Program officers consolidate all project proposal and submit to block by 15 September every year. They ensure that the baseline survey is assessed in order to ensure that the work demand that people have made gets conveyed accurately at the higher levels. Monitoring and supervision of implementation of works is also their responsibility. They also ensure prompt and fair payment of wages. They have the responsibility to maintain proper account, redress grievances within 7 days, ensure the conduct of social audit, liaison with bank and post offices in opening new accounts, organize monthly meetings, accept applications for work, ensure that display of report cards are there on the work on every public space, ensure that Gram Sabhas are held on 15th of August, nodal officers for facilitating the labor groups. They are also to ensure that the required information is provided to social audit groups 15 days in advance in order for transparency mechanisms to work. Additional program coordinators are responsible for preparing district labor budgets. They also help to plan sufficient shelf of work for the district. They ensure opening of works to meet labor demands. They ensure timely payment. They ensure quality of works, manage fund, finance and accounts, ensure transparency, any other additional responsibility given to them by the DPC. They also conduct training for field staff and are responsible for monitoring and inspection of the work site. District program coordinators consolidate all district plans for approval, accord timely sanction of shelf of projects, timely release and utilization of funds, ensure wage seekers are provided work as per the Act, conduct periodic supervision of works, and ensure Rozgar Divas is organized. And with this, we come to an end of the module on Mgnregs under Public Works Program, one of the largest public works program implemented in the world. The objective of this module 2 was to enable you to understand the detail with which this public works program has been mapped out and planned in order that the public finances that are being invested in this social protection and social safety net mechanism supposed to address the insecurities of the poorest member of the society gets implemented with transparency, accountability, and also help us to uphold the decentralization and devolution objectives of the government. Thank you very much.